Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're reviewing the new Porsche 911. Now before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Porsche Salt Lake for giving me some time with this 911. This particular one is a Cabriolet. I'll include a link to Porsche Salt Lake's website in the description down below. If you have any questions or need any help, just ask for Matt Hendry. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. We're actually going to start off with the key fob, which really cool because it has a silhouette of a car, but you do have the front trunk opening on the fob itself, and yes, this still does come with a front trunk, so adds to the overall practicality of the 911. And I'm gonna have to put the camera down and close this with both hands, but it's a nice setup. Now before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now taking a look at the headlights, it still has the normal 911 shape, but you notice that the lighting cluster itself has been changed. It looks quite a bit more aggressive compared to the previous version, which was already pretty darn aggressive. And then this is still kind of like squared off at the bottom with the front trunk lid. But again, it's unmistakable. It still looks like a 911. Tire and wheel setup is 245 by 35 by 20 in the front, and then 305 by 30 by 21 in the rear, so staggered setup on the 911, pretty typical. I really like these wheels. It's kind of like a classic design, black and silver. You got the blacked out brake calipers, so it's very neutral overall, which I would say is pretty important considering the paint color on this particular one is very, very bright. We've got the mirror cap, which is body painted, same thing with the door handle, and this one's a Cabriolet. So you do have the soft top, but you notice how they slope the soft top. This is one of the few soft tops that I think actually looks good with the top up. Now Porsche doesn't really let you access the engine, so this will be the viewpoint for this portion. Anyways, we have a twin turbo 3-liter flat 6-cylinder that goes through an 8-speed dual clutch automatic. Fuel economy is 18 around town, 25 on the highway, with power outputs being 388 horsepower and then 331 pound-feet of torque. Now that that's done, I really like the overall kind of like sloping here in the back. I think that looks cool. And then the tail lights, really fun with the light bar design. You can see 911 Carrera, and the badge just looks so high quality. Exhaust tips built into the rear diffuser there, looks really cool as well. But there's the back. This will lead us inside where we've got really nice stitching across. You can see down below as well. And again, this one's very neutral theme. We've got our memory seats here. Get your window controls and all of that. And then for the little windows here, you can see a little window right there. Really nice leather seats here, perforated all down the center, and Porsche gives you so much adjustment with the seats. But the thing that's really nice is you still have like a little strap there to just pull it forward quickly. Now we do have back seats. Everyone knows the back seats in the 911 are more for storage, but they still put really nice trimming. Look at that section right there. That's really high quality looking. So they've done really well with that. And then you've got pretty fancy looking pedals, and then you have your engine stop start here, and it is just a push button. There's no like twist key or anything anymore. Taking a look at the steering wheel, really nice trim all around. Paddle shifters there on the back for the 8-speed dual clutch. And then you've got practical controls like voice command controls, phone controls. You've got your drive mode select here, and the sport response. That's kind of cool. But yeah, you just twist it for the drive mode, and then you have your regular Porsche stocks there on the back. Full digital gauge cluster, and again, when you change the drive modes, it'll show up there. But they keep things pretty tame. Now, this is really customizable. I mean, you can basically display whatever you want. So I think it's kind of cool that you have so many different options with the cluster. Now we do have a 360 camera system with this, great resolution. It's nice because, again, 911s are pretty low to the ground, so you're going to be able to see all around. And then as for the infotainment system, this is a very modern unit. So got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, quick response time with it. And I do like how they've integrated this into the dash, because it's like you've got the gauge cluster there, you got the screen here, and then you have the rest of the dash. It's not like a tablet plopped onto the dash, but we still have the Sport Chrono Clock on the dash, which is always cool to see in person. Yeah, just really nice setup all around. And then you got, again, nice shortcuts. So like if you want to go into the drive mode stuff, it's right there. And you can even make the exhaust louder. But something important to notice, Porsche understands that people really care about the tactile feel that buy these cars, and I realize I've had the front end lift up this entire time. Oops. Anyways, so they still give you physical buttons, right? You've got vents down below that, and then you got more physical controls for the climate, and we still have what I call the shaver shifter, because it kind of looks like a little razor. But yeah, tactile feel on everything is fantastic. You got your controls for the heated and ventilated seats. You can see for the rear shade there, and then this is just for the top. And I like how it has dedicated buttons that look like they're not an afterthought whatsoever, so that's really nice to see. Your singular cup holder right there, phone charging pad, and it's less of a center console, more of just like a phone holder. And then really nice, looks like Alcantara on the glove box, opens up, and everything again tactile. Like that's the thing, you got to get into a Porsche and just open and close things and touch things. Everything has a very tight tactile feel, and there's tons of insulation with this top. We'll talk about the sound as we drive it. So here's a window sticker for this 911 Cabriolet. This is shade green metallic for those of you that are wondering, and this has, wow, I didn't know they offered an extended range fuel tank. 22, that's huge. A 22-gallon fuel tank in a sports car. Man, I really wish that, and that makes sense. Like, look at that, you actually have range. I really wish more sports cars had that, because I understand like the extra weight that it adds to the car, but like it's so annoying. If you've ever, everyone knows, like if you've ever driven a sports car, you get like 150, 200 miles of range. It's so annoying having to fill up all the time. But anyways, rest of the options, total MSRP 166,305. Let's see how it performs. Weird. Anyways, let's set up in the Porsche 911. So I don't know how many packages I'm going to be able to review with this 911, at least for this year. As these get traded into the Porsche dealership, I'll be able to get more reviews on different packages, but since this is so new, right, we're not going to have much right off the bat, just so you guys know. But it is really cool to see. I would say that this new version's kind of like a, it's kind of like an evolution on the and this is what Porsche does with the 911, right? They don't change way too much because they don't want to ruin the heritage. They don't want to ruin the car. So they are very conservative with the changes that they do. But I will say the interior here is so nice, super luxurious. I don't know if they're gonna, okay, I think they're letting me through. Super nice interior. And yeah, this is not the best road to test out a 911, but the suspension actually handles it really well. A lot of sports cars are like uncomfortably firm over stuff like this, but it actually does a pretty good job of soaking things up. I mean, it is you know, it's of course unibody independent suspension all around, so it's gonna move around a bit on that type of terrain, but it's cool to see how that performs. Makes me very curious as to how the 911 Dakar would drive on that. I don't know if I'll ever get a chance to review one of those, but that'd be cool. For a sports car, it's very well insulated. You do hear the tire noise a bit. Of course, you hear the engine, which you want to hear the engine. And let's open up that exhaust a little bit. But yeah, generally speaking, like, I'm not going very fast, but you know, usually with these convertibles, you can tell right off the bat. Like, I reviewed a Mazda Miata RF, not comparable to this at all, but convertible with a hardtop. And this has more, just to give you an idea, this has more insulation than the RF does. So it just goes to show how well Porsche has tuned this soft top. Man, this is so daily drivable. I'm surprised people don't put more miles on these, because I look at the cars that the dealership gets traded in and they don't have a lot of miles on them. People will put, you know, maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 miles on them, and that's it. And that's sharp. Let's put it in the, ooh, that makes it super aggressive. That sounds good though. Firms things up, you can definitely feel that. Man, you gotta love so flat sixes are very similar to inline sixes in terms of how smooth they are. I would say that flat sixes are even, especially in a sports car setting, are even smoother than an inline six. So think like the BMW's B58, right? That's a smooth engine. This is a lot smoother, and so you just get this. You get this power delivery that is just, it rips all the way to red line, right? You feel that it just keeps building more and more power. Sounds fantastic, but it's also how it delivers the power. The transmission is razor sharp, right? And then the power delivery, there's no roughness at all. Nothing. I love that blow off. That sounds so cool. And I'll demonstrate the front end lift for you guys. It's a pretty quick system nowadays. Really sharp car. So yeah, Porsche 911. It is basically the sports car. The reason why this is the car that everyone benchmarks sports cars against is because of how good this thing is. It drives well, and the other thing is there's so many different variants on the 911. I know that some people might be overwhelmed by that, but it makes sense, right? If you want something like this like this version is like your luxury cruiser. And by the way, I mean, this is just my personal take. If you're not really going to be doing crazy performance driving, like if you just want a really nice convertible that still has, I mean, the performance of this is still fantastic, this is all you need. You don't even need to get an S. Like the entry-level powertrain for the 911 blows a lot of powertrains out of the water. And so that's the other thing, is you actually don't need to go too crazy within the 911 lineup to get, in my personal opinion, to get a really solid car. You don't need to get the turbo, you don't need to get the S, you don't need to get the GT3. This is a great car. I mean, even the Carrera T, right, with the manual, I mean, that's also an incredibly fun car. And I mean, the other thing is Porsche options, right? So this starts at $133,000 for the Cabriolet. Oh, so they have chalk, so it is chalk stitching. You gotta, Porsche lets you really customize these things. So sport exhaust, tailpipes in black. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily have to get to if you wanted it to be a little bit less expensive. But yeah, either way, I think entry level with Porsche is better than top of the line with most manufacturers. And the last thing I just want to ask you guys, for those of you that own these 911s, do you guys like the whole new digital setup? I imagine a lot of people like the infotainment system. It's super user friendly, but I'm wondering about the gauge cluster, because this has been a big shift, and also stuff like the button. Would you rather have Porsche go back to the old setup where it's like key fob in, twist, and then have analog gauges? Or do you guys like the new screen setup? I'd be curious to hear on that.